Yeah, one of the things that Trump talked about that a lot of people probably weren't aware of was the damage that these wind turbines are doing to whales. I wasn't totally aware of it.
I had no idea until I watched your podcast with him.
I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't read about it until after I talked to him. And it's a real problem.
It's a very real problem.
And what a conundrum for people that are so-called environmentalists to think the wind is like the cleanest option when it's not. The turbines don't last. You can't recycle them.
It doesn't work in salt water in particular, which is what most of the world's water is. I think wind is the biggest scam out there. It's total bullshit.
It's also pollution. When I see those gigantic wind tunnels,
they're ugly.
They're gross.
They're ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought this, where were me and my wife? We used to be into road trips before we had a Secret Service detail. And we took a road trip, the good old days, man. We took a road trip through Kansas or Nebraska, or maybe it was Iowa. It was one of the, I mean, we went through all three of those states, but I can't remember where. You just go for miles and miles, and you see nothing but wind turbines. And it's like, this is beautiful American countryside that used to be green, rolling hills. And now you have these disgusting dystopian wind turbines. I'm sorry, they are ugly. I will die on this hill. They're ugly. I don't want them in American society.
And nuclear power plants are actually more efficient, safer. And you don't have the problem. Like, we think about the problems of nuclear waste. Like, they've kind of sorted a lot of those out. They haven't sorted out the problems of getting rid of these turbines.
No, they haven't. Not at all.
I have a buddy of mine who lives in South Texas, and I went to visit him, and you drive down there, and it's like an hour of turbines. They're everywhere. There's so many of them.
I can't stand that.
You just see them as, like, the sky is turning dark. You see these things just spinning. It just looks gross.
They kill the birds. They apparently kill the whale. They kill a lot of birds.
If you look underneath them, it's like bird graveyards. It's crazy.
It really is.
And it's clean. It's green. It's like we're brainwashed to think that these things somehow or another are beneficial because they're attached to this idea of being environmentally conscious.
Well, and I got the thought behind them, right? I understand why we were trying to turn. That's obviously a source of energy because you have wind blowing through. That's energy that we should capture, but we're just not that good at it with this, right?
It's not very efficient.
Right, just accept that it was a mistake. It's not that efficient. The political or the environmental costs are pretty significant. You know, solar, I think, is actually a little bit more reasonable because you can get a lot more of the power. They last a little bit longer. They're not nearly as ugly. And you can put them in places where people don't frankly want to live that much anyway, like in deserts and things like that.
Well, they do those roofs now. Like Tesla does a solar roof, which
the
is
solar
fantastic.
roofs I think that's a great way, right? That's just empty space. But wind, I think we just should say this was a failed experiment. We're going to stop subsidizing this. And if people want to have a wind turbine, great. But we're not going to build miles and miles of wind turbines anymore, at least not with taxpayer subsidy.
But I just hope people recognize that the trade-off is not worth it. Like, you're getting a little bit of electricity. You're really ruining the landscape. You're ruining the view. You're killing birds. You're messing up whales. And those things don't last that long. And then when you got to get rid of them, you got to put them in a landfill. Like, the whole thing's bananas.
It's totally bananas. And again, we focus on the carbon footprint thing, and we don't talk about the fact that there are these massive environmental hazards. That goes back to the distracted politics versus the real stuff.